Here are the top 3 chart signals that I use to determine if a stock is at its top or if it's at its bottom. Y'all know the vibe, man. It's your boy D-WAUGH, co-creator of Think and Gen Wealth, back at it again. And today I'm going to break down my favorite 3 signals that I use to see where a stock's at, where it could be going, or if it's falling. Without further ado, y'all know me. Let's get straight into it. I'm going to share my screen. Boom. So as y'all can see on my screen, I have the MasterCard ticker symbol up right now. And the number one thing that I first want to break down that I use specifically when it comes to figuring out if a stock's at its bottom or at its top is the 200-day moving average on the weekly chart. Okay. And MasterCard is a perfect example of that. So I'm going to go to the 10-year weekly chart and I'm going to clean up the chart a little bit. So this purple line, well, first, this chart represents the whole 10 years of MasterCard. The whole 10 years it's been a publicly traded company. And each of these candlesticks represent 1 week. All right. So this candlestick is 1 week. This candlestick is 1 week. This candlestick is 1 week, etc. You can see at the top left here, when I go, each of them are exactly 1 week. Okay. Now, the reason I say the 200-day moving average is the best thing to use when it comes to tracking the bottom of a stock, which in this case would be this purple line right here, is because every time we see a good company fall to these prices on a historically long chart, you always see the stock get bought up over a long period of time, okay? In this case, MasterCard is at its 200-day moving average, this purple line, on the 10-year weekly chart. And if you look back, let me zoom out to the whole time. This is now chart represents the whole time MasterCard was even a publicly traded company, okay? Every time it comes to this purple line, it goes back up. Boom, happened again, goes back up, goes back up. Every single time it does that. All right. And that's the historical context that you need, to have confidence when going into a stock, either your dollar cost averaging into it or you're trading a stock. If you see that bounces every time at a strong point of support, which is what this 200-day moving average would be, that shows that this could be the low to boat opportunity. Okay. So with MasterCard specifically, with it now being at this 200-day moving average on the weekly charts, either it's the 10-year weekly, 3-year weekly, the max amount of time weekly, it's always bouncing from here. That gives you strong conviction that it's at its bottom. Okay. So that's one of the first things that I use. The second thing that I use is I use chart patterns. Okay. And a good example of a chart pattern is a recent trade that Wolf called out in our Discord, Amcor. Okay. So with Amcor, you'll see this chart pattern I drew right here. This chart pattern is called an ascending triangle, as you can see at the top right there, okay? Now, with this chart pattern, this is a bullish chart pattern, meaning typically when I see this stock pattern, this chart pattern, the way I play it is I wait for a breakout at the top of resistance right here, okay? Once I see, like, for example, this green candle, if I were to trade this stock, once I saw that broke above this resistance point, this green candle here, that's when I would enter a trade, okay? Now, the reason I really like that is because with certain chart patterns, they're very good to trade out of once you see a breakout of resistance, which would be this top line. So in this case, this chart pattern blew up, it broke out of resistance, and then it went all the way up to all-time highs of $96, okay? If I were to trade this company using my chart patterns philosophy, I would allow this breakout to happen. Boom, it broke above resistance. I would take entry here. Then I would wait. For me personally, I'll wait till I get my 20% on any swing trade or day trade, and then I would get out. But here, if you held for the whole time on the $96, this most likely would have been a 50, 60, 100% for you. So this would have been a really good trade. Shout out to Wolf for calling this out on our Discord. But that's one way of using chart patterns to your advantage. Now, the specific chart patterns that I use are ascending triangles, which would be this one, where the bottom is rising up and the top is flat. Bull flags, and I'll show y'all a bull flag real quick. Let me see if I can find one. Here's one. Right here, this is a falling wedge. Another falling wedge, but kind of here, right? A bull flag would be considered something like this. When you have a run up and then a pullback like this. And same thing like the ascending triangle, you want to wait for a breakthrough of resistance at this top line and then play the trade from there. Okay? That's another one of my favorite chart patterns, a bull flag. I also love cup and handles, and I also love falling wedges. Falling wedge would be something like this. Similar to a bull flag, but it's a little more narrow, as you see at this bottom. At a bull flag, they're kind of even when they're falling down, like this. But with a falling wedge, it gets more narrow and narrower until these two lines eventually touch, okay? So those are my favorite patterns right there. Is a ascending triangle, bull flag, and a falling wedge. Those chart patterns usually are really good. 90% of the times they work out when you're trading it. Again, this is not financial advice. We don't research on everything, but when I play those candlesticks to the resistance and allow it to break out and then maybe retest resistance, they're usually very bullish patterns, okay? Last but not least, I like to use anchored VWAP. So for y'all that don't know what anchored VWAP is, it's this yellow line right here, okay? And this yellow line is essentially the average price of a stock at certain periods of time. Okay? So for my anchored VWAP, I have it set to the bottom. So this is the bottom line of anchored VWAP. This means that anytime there's a big event that causes a stock to pull back, and the history of time, every time this happens historically, this is where people buy at after those historical events, okay? And this follows the algorithms. This follows all the AIs out there that's trading for people. It pretty much shows you where those algorithms buy when there's a historical event that causes a stock market to pull back, okay? Now, I used the anchored VWAP recently with this company called NU, which is a fintech bank out in Latin America that has a really good balance sheet, really good business model. I saw that NU pull back to this anchored VWAP, and most of the time, I don't like trading or doing any types of trades when we have on the weekly chart, the 50-day moving average is above the price action. When the 50-day moving average is here and my price action is in here, I usually don't like doing any trades because the 50-day moving average acts as a weight, okay? It weighs down on the price action and brings it lower on the weekly chart. But the reason I got into this one is because, first of all, NU is a cheap company. $13 a share, wasn't that much capital. The leap that I got into was about $300. So it wasn't much I was putting up to risk. And at the time, implied volatility was super low. So these leaps were actually really cheap. Now implied volatility on NU is at about 58%, so it's not cheap. But when I got in here because I saw the anchored VWAP touch. I saw, hey, I'm not risking much. I don't usually get into it, but I really like NU. Let me give it a shot. And it worked out for me. I was able to get over 20% on the trade. I wanted to stay in it, but my dumbass accidentally sold it. So I took my profit. But people in my Discord know that, hey, I wish I didn't sell. I think this could go a lot higher since we're at all-time lows. But here, I use the anchored VWAP specifically because every time we see a touch of anchored VWAP, we see the stock rally. Now, you're not going to see it on the weekly chart. On the daily chart, it's really good to see because every time it touches, it goes up here, it goes up, okay? So that's another pattern or chart indicator that I like to use to see if the chart stops at the bottom or at its top. That's it for me, y'all. Y'all told it's going to be a quick video. Just wanted to show y'all my top 3 chart indicators. Let me know what y'all favorite ones is. If anything that I'm missing throughout my technical analysis, maybe we could all better our game together. Y'all let me know in the comments what y'all use below. If this was any really helpful. It's DWAUGH. I'm out of here.